Nolan Finley, you are in North Carolina with every living Republican in the United States, right? So give us a sense of what you saw, what you took in at the live part of the convention in Charlotte.
Yeah, since 2000, I've been to every Democrat and Republican convention. And, this was obviously unlike anything. It was a one-day convention, 500 Republicans here. They didn't come near filling the 6,000-seat convention center, Charlotte Convention Center, just there for a day. The city itself was dead. I mean, what a convention or any large event means to a downtown. Charlotte is actually a wonderful city. I was here in 2000 for the Democratic convention, and I'll tell you what, you couldn't even walk through Charlotte and buy a MAGA hat.
That's right.
I tried, Steve.
I'm sure you did.
I was getting it for you. That was going to be your Christmas present.
Right. So one of the questions going into this week was what tone the Republicans would strike with all of this. The president's campaign has changed a lot in the last 6 or 8 months. It looks a lot like, to me, like an old-style Southern racist campaign. This convention was their opportunity to try to say, well, we're going to reach a little more to other people. We're not just going to concentrate on the president's base. Give us a sense of what that was like and how successful they were.
They're going after the base in a big way, talking about the Second Amendment, talking about abortion, talking about religion, talking about law and order. They're raising concerns about the leftward lunge of the Democratic Party, but they're also, the first 2 nights at least, really highlighting some of the young, diverse talent in the party. You saw a lot of minority speakers, a lot of African Americans, a lot of Hispanics. Daniel Cameron, the Attorney General, young Attorney General from the state of Kentucky. Man, he was very, very impressive. What they're highlighting, at least so far, is the future of the Republican Party, and it looks a lot different than, for example, when they did their roll call during the day Monday, the state-by-state delegation awards. Not one African American stood up. 50-some delegations from states and territories stood up, and not one African American. And I thought, my goodness, if the convention is going to be like this, it'll be a disaster. But man, they've turned it around during that nighttime programming.
I mean, in terms of representation, it looks different. Of course, the message is always the trouble. Nikki Haley, in particular, I thought gave a very strange speech, attacking the idea of there being inequalities that require the kind of activism that we've seen. She stood up there and said, America is not a racist country. This is an Indian woman who dropped her first name, essentially, to whiten it up, to run for political office in the state of South Carolina. Tim Scott also has, lots of things that are inconsistent with this message of inclusion that he's got to deal with inside the party. So, I mean, I agree with you that they've got the faces. What they don't have is the message or the substance.
I thought what Tim Scott spoke to is that everybody who's African American in politics doesn't have to think the same way, doesn't have to deliver the same message. He has, a very compelling personal story, and one that I think reached voters.
So give us an idea of where are we with this campaign going into the fall?
I think the Republicans have done a very good setup, and I think Donald Trump and his appearances these 2 nights has done a very good job. We've seen a restrained president trying to act presidential. Question to me is what happens Thursday night? Because when he spoke Monday to that brief convention session, it was rambling. It was, poor me, look what they're doing to me. It was a mess. And I would hope that he reads off a teleprompter and that he stays focused.
The script, right? Our common resolution, I think, coming out of the convention season this year is something that I've been talking about for a long time. 2024, we need a political convention in Detroit. I keep saying all these other cities are able to get conventions, and
Oh, yeah.
half of them aren't nearly as compelling a place as Detroit. Milwaukee, Charlotte, come on.
No, I wouldn't say that about Charlotte. Charlotte's got
It's a
it going
wonderful
on.
city. It's
It's a
not
wonderful
Detroit.
city. And I'll tell you one difference you see there. You know, we've talked over the years about Detroit's comeback and the heavy white presence and the lack of inclusion. You can't say that about Charlotte.
Can't say that about Charlotte. That's right.
Charlotte, you're in downtown Charlotte. You know you're in a largely African-American city.
You really do.
Black-owned businesses, black workers in those businesses, you know, and everything seemingly coming together and going along. We haven't gotten there yet in Detroit, but Detroit could host a convention. I mean, Detroit could host a convention easily.
All right. Well, we'll see you when you get back.
We'll do it.
Bring a convention with you, Nolan.
I'll try to. You want the Republicans, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.